So how do you wrap up something called the Big Bloody Slime Experiment? I mean, the worlds of slime and blood are both so interesting. Well, why don't we talk a little bit about slimes and then round it all up with a little bit about blood. Now, something you may have noticed is that slime is sort of a weird mixture between a solid and a liquid. I mean, it looks like a solid, right? What does it do that for? I mean, you can break it into pieces, and yet it flows and it sort of takes the shape of the container it's in, which is a bit confusing. Well, slime is actually just a super thick liquid, and you can see it would flow through funnels. It's flowing back down into the container now. And slime made out of glue molecules linked together, well, that's not the only sort of slime around. There are actually slime out there in nature. Just ask anyone who's ever blown their nose. Yes, I'm afraid we humans make slime too. One called mucus, for example, which is actually very useful to us as humans. But that's not the only slime out there in nature. Snails make slime, which is excellent for making it easier for them to slide along on their foot. Yes, that is the correct name for that snail body part. There are also slime molds, an interesting group that mostly do decomposing out there. But more interestingly, slime molds have gotten through mazes and have been able to kind of teach another slime mold something. Seaweed is also quite slimy too, well, a lot of it, and if you've ever picked it up, you probably know. So why? Well, the slime is actually quite a good home to a lot of the microbes that live out there. Oh, and that's not the only thing while we're in the ocean and we're talking about slime. Let's come to one of my favourites, the hagfish. These creatures release stuff from their mucus glands that can turn buckets of seawater around them into slime in less than a second. It's a way of defending themselves from animals that might try to attack them and eat them. Check out the image here of a fish coughing up a hagfish it tried to catch, and it got a mouthful of slime instead. Scientists actually study these slimes out in nature too, and they're looking for ways to make interesting new things for us, like glues or fabrics. Even hagfish slime, they study that. Enough about slime. What about the blood of our blood slime model? Because blood is fascinating too. Let me scoop some of that model blood back out here. Now, the main component of blood is actually plasma. That's the stuff that carries everything else around. And in us humans, it's a sort of a light yellowy colour. The second main component, about 55%, is the plasma, and most of the rest of it, well, you can see it's the red blood cells. And they carry that oxygen all around the body, delivering it so it can make things run, and then, of course, taking the waste, if you like, the carbon dioxide, back away. Now, you did remember we actually added some other things in there too. Those little white things, the white blood cells, well, they're in our blood to help us fight infection and diseases. Kind of like the security guards, I suppose. Oh, and the glitter, that's the platelets. That's in there because it helps our blood to clot if we have a cut or something like that. But all very useful things. Oh, our blood does other things too. It helps to actually carry other waste around, which gets taken out by the kidneys and the liver, filtered out, and helps to regulate our body temperature. Oh, what do you think is happening in this picture? Any ideas what might have been happening in that picture? Well, the person was donating blood. Yes, adults donate blood. Why, you might be wondering? Well, it can be very useful to doctors and hospitals and things like that when people need extra blood. And the other very fascinating thing about blood that's donated is very often it's separated out into its components, into its plasma, red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets. And it gets sent out and they can use the components that they need. Pretty fascinating. Can you imagine trying to separate out the components of your blood slime model? That might be a little bit tricky. But I hope making and playing with and learning about blood and blood slime model has been fascinating. I'm going to keep going with mine, I think.